Hi there, I'm Mireia, the host of this podcast. I'm a teacher, a mom, an entrepreneur, and passionate about connection through play and living a meaningful life. This is Rediscovering Childhood, a podcast where I share tools, stories, and conversations to support parents and educators in making more conscious, joyful, and connected choices for the children in our lives. Each episode shares a unique and powerful story, so make sure you subscribe or follow this podcast, as you never know what episode will inspire you next. I am very excited to welcome Aisleen Harte today to the podcast. She's the mommy of two wonderful children. She's worked in early years for the last 20 years. She owns her own preschool for the past 13 years. Which is a long time. It doesn't sound like it. 13 years is a long time. And she just now wrote a book, her first published book. So she's an author now, and it's a really empowering, incredible book for children, My Voice, My Choice, to really empower them to get their voice out and feel like it matters.
Yeah.
So Aisleen, very welcome. And I'd love to hear where the inspiration for your book comes from.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me on. As you mentioned, I'm almost 20 years working in early years, so that was definitely a big part of my learning and changing to listen to children's voices and giving them lots of choice around their day. But I would have to say the biggest inspiration is becoming a mother to my own two girls, because parenting is definitely the biggest learning journey. I think any parent will agree that it's just there's no rule book and you have to figure it out yourself. So I have two great girls who have no problem using their voice. They're very strong-willed girls, and I had to do a lot of research about how to parent strong-willed personalities, because I grew up being a typical good girl. I went along with the flow. I just, never caused any hassle, let's put it that way. And when you're parenting children that are strong-willed and they press and they challenge and they ask questions and they basically use their voice, you really have to start looking at yourself in terms of how it's affecting you and how you respond. So I started to realize, their pushes and their challenges were my discomfort. It was actually nothing to do with them at all. And a lot of the stuff they would speak up on and ask for, or challenge, they were right in doing so. So I just started to observe and listen and take a step back and really start listening to their voices. And that was the biggest inspiration for the book.
I think that's incredible what you said about strong-willed and how it triggers us when they ask questions, or when they have a voice. And I think most parents call them bossy.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a lot of the time it's, I wrote that in the introduction to my book, that they're mislabeled. Children that are strong-willed and speak up can be mislabeled for misbehaving or speaking out of turn, or you'd hear a lot, are you going to let them speak to you that way? And it's like, but they're just speaking. It's a lot of the times they're speaking up. It is valid. It's very valid. So the book is really about everyday scenarios where children are using their voice, and we can often dismiss it and, say, but like, what's wrong with just wearing these clothes or accepting this cup, or whatever it is, or you're doing the activities that we want you to do as opposed to what they want to do themselves. And that's come up a lot. I've been going around different schools promoting my book, and that part has come up a lot, that children are doing activities that they don't actually want to do. So I think it's so important that we really listen to them, because we wouldn't wear clothes we don't want to, that are uncomfortable for whatever reason. I know myself, I have certain cups or mugs that I drink out of in the house, and some I really don't. I've often poured a cup of tea down the sink that my husband might make, because it's not a cup I like. So it was those kind of scenarios that I was really attuned to and really observing. And my children, thankfully, would speak up and say, but I don't want that one. That's not the one I want. And Yeah, it was us as adults that were dismissing these everyday choices that, and they're so simple. So why is it okay for us and not them?
Yeah, it's a bit of empathy, isn't it? To
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you choose the battles that you want to have with them. So I actually, this came up in a conversation in a school recently where I read the book to the children, and somebody who heard it as an adult, they said, "Oh my God, like I never thought of it that way." One of the pages in my book is about choosing a cup or a mug, and I might just give a little snippet of it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So a cup or a mug, don't you have favorites? Drinks can taste different. I've heard you say it. So when I ask for a certain one, it's not to cause rift or be awkward for fun. It's because, like you, I know what I like, my voice, my choice, and not to gripe. And the adult who was chatting to me, she said, I really, really never thought of it that way. She said, I thought if I gave in to the choice that they wanted, that I was in control and they were getting control of the situation and I was just letting them win. And I was like, oh my God, it's, you really have to choose your battles. So that's the adult's perspective. That was absolutely nothing to do with the child. That was how it was making the adult feel that they were losing control if they gave them the cup or a plate that they
That's
wanted,
a very
you know.
common thought and behavior from adults and parents to think if I let them get away with what they want and what they're asking, then that's it. It's going to be like that forever and they'll take control and they'll take over the world and the house and the me and the everything. And it's
It
a
is
bit,
so
it's
true.
like their
Yeah,
ego.
it is. And it's definitely, look at it's nobody, people don't realize, and it's not, adults are not trying to, I think, just have these arguments for the sake of it. It's just how we were brought up. And that's what I really would love for the book, is to bring about generational change as well and just change the mindset. A parent who did buy the book off me said that it was the most thought-provoking book they'd ever read as a parent. And like that feedback is just, it's what's driving me on. All the different responses that I'm getting to the book are driving me to further support children's voices and just get the book out there as much as possible.
And what do children say when you go to the classrooms to do the workshops? What are their thoughts or their feedback in relation to that?
Some of them are just, it's brilliant. Like, it has been so lovely going into different classes, and some classes are quieter. They just, I've been there myself where I would not put up my hand or answer, but then one class in particular, in one school, it was a third class, and they just ran with it. They had so much feedback and so much input. And yeah, as I mentioned, a lot was coming up about activities. When I would read the book, and then I would say, so does any of the pages resonate with anybody? Does anyone feel like they've gone through those situations where they didn't have their voice heard? And a lot of it is coming up that children are doing activities they don't want to. So when I would say, and have you spoken about this? And some, in fairness, they've voiced their interests and said that they didn't want to do activities and they have stopped, but others have voiced it and it's still being continued. So I suppose that again just comes back to us as the adult, just really listening to them, and not having them doing activities that they have no interest in, or we know ourselves, we're not going to go to a class or an activity or whatever it is that we don't want to. So like, it can be so tough on children. Life is tough on them as it is. So I think we really, really need to listen to their interests. But the feedback from the kids is brilliant. It's so enjoyable. And some of them just get really into it, and about the choices about their clothes. And now a lot of the times there's lovely stories, and they're saying that, yeah, the tags are being cut off their clothes and they don't have to wear what the parents want them to wear, once they just use their voice, basically. So yeah, it's a mixture, but and it just spurs me on and gives me more, encourages me more to use my voice for them.
And would you consider doing workshops with the parents or adults? Because I think I at least in my for my experience, I would be I think a lot of parents could be afraid of letting their kids choose their clothes or things like that, because what if other parents see their kids dressed up with sandals, socks, and a swimming hat? Like, what are they gonna say? And then
Yeah,
they judge me because I'm such a bad parent. Because how dare you
yeah,
dress your child like that? So if you're
yeah.
not confident enough for your first time parent and you're still figuring things out, I can totally see a fifth child dressed up like that. No
Oh,
problem.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
But a lot of that is down to confidence in my own confidence in myself, that and just be like, yeah, so what?
yeah, leave them to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I really would love to, and I want to spend time over the next few months putting together something like that, a workshop that's not just listening to the story, but really engaging and getting parents' feedbacks in what is holding them back in letting children have their voice. But I agree with you. It definitely is, but what will society think? Like if we're going to a family occasion and your child, my daughters in particular, it's like tracksuits, leggings,
Mm.
football shorts, and like I thankfully, after doing a lot of work on myself over the last year, I now don't really care. I'm like, if they are happy wearing their clothes the way they are, what they're comfortable in, who am I to judge them or shame them or challenge them in that? Because I, as an adult, still to this day, you're changing, if you're going out, you keep changing until you're comfortable in what you're wearing. So it's the same, it's the exact same scenario for our children. So I think you're right. It's working with the parents to support the children's voices is definitely a road I want to go down. So again, I just need to do work and research and all of that around getting it out there and getting I think it's getting started, and then hopefully it will take off from there.
And what are the things we can start doing to make sure that we start listening to our children, really listening, not just hearing them in the background, or we're really listening, because we're so busy and it's really hard. Sometimes they'll tell us things, and because we're so busy, we'll shut them, that, oh, yeah, no, you
Yeah,
just that, or just do what I said, or again, because they'll take over everything, or we're just afraid of pausing and listening.
yeah,
And how do we start? How do you take that first step to notice
yeah,
what are these things
yeah.
we can do a little bit better?
Yeah, I think life is very busy for people at the minute. Oh, I don't think I've ever witnessed it as crazy as parents literally
Agree.
have said they're on the road 7 days a week with activities and running here, running there. And like that can bring on so much stress and so much arguments with your children that, and that's life has just gone really, really busy. And it does bring about, say if you're trying to leave the house in the morning and they're deciding they want my own house example, yesterday morning, my little lady was exhausted because they're later going to bed. She was tired getting up. She wanted certain socks. Then the socks weren't comfortable. We were running late. Then something else happened. I can't even remember what it was. And I just thought, this is all now. I need to be calm and ready for
Mm.
this. This is not her fault. She is absolutely exhausted. So I think definitely looking at what's our priorities in life, and really, do we need to be involved in every activity that's going? And I think obviously getting up a little bit earlier helps in the mornings to be more prepared for when they get up, because they're going to come at us with these emotions and these challenges. And it boils down to us not being able for them. Because we're trying to get out the door, get everybody to certain places on time. So yeah, I think well, for me anyway, I'm starting to really look at what's a priority, what really has to be done and what doesn't, because our little children's lives are going to pass us by in a flash, and I definitely don't want to have any regrets. I want to slow down life to be more present for them. I suppose I'm
Yeah.
lucky. My girls, as I said, they're both strong-willed. They'll use their voice. So I'm one of the lucky ones because they make me look at myself, and it's only now I'm realizing that is just such a blessing, and it's so inspiring for my children to nearly force me into doing it. Um, but you do worry for those who just go along with everything, and that's I think where I feel like I have a purpose now to get my book and my voice out there now to, to encourage other parents to listen to their children and maybe slow down a little bit more to just treasure and be more present.
Yeah, it really just changes everything. And as you said, what are your priorities? And sometimes, a lot of the time, we get carried away by how busy we are, and we start saying, "Oh, I can't wait for them when they're older and when they go this and when they're more independent and they do their own thing and then have more time and then life is gone."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I heard on another podcast a while ago saying, when you have to make a choice, are we rushing and we have to do this quickly, or can we stop and slow down? Think about, what are you going to regret the most tomorrow?
Mm,
That's the thing you're going to do today. And that's
yeah,
what you choose your
yeah,
priority. I thought that was really powerful. And that's what you do.
yeah,
Allow people
yeah.
to notice those things so they can make better choices.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. It is like life is going by in a flash. And I've actually made a very big decision for myself recently in terms of coming to the end of running my preschool after 13 years. And it is going to be heartbreaking, to be honest with you. It's going to be very emotional, but I've come to the realization that I will not get this time back with my children. And when you're running any business, you're never switched off when you're running your own business. And, I had my children, my babies through running that. So there was very little time to be 100% present, and over the last year or so, my gut has just been saying it's just time to refocus, prioritize, and my girls deserve to have their mommy just thinking about them and not lots of other people, because I do give 100% when I am doing things. And yeah, this is, as I said, a massive life changing decision that I've come to, but I believe it is for the best of my family and my children. And I think now that I'm going to have a different purpose, and I think that my book and getting my book out there will be the road that I'm going to go, and hopefully come up with more books, but just support children's voices. But I have to start back in my own house, and my children have to be the priority.
Congratulations. That's absolutely incredible. That's a really brave, it takes a lot of courage, move, and it takes a lot of courage. But I think you're listening to your heart, and there's
Yeah.
no better choice than that. So
No.
it's your voice
Yeah.
and your choice, and it's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, because you can get caught up thinking, oh, but I can't do this, I can't do that. Like change is very, very scary. And it's only from working on myself over the last year through the whole, process of publishing the book, and that I was doing work on myself behind the scenes. And that gave me the confidence to now be able to make this decision. And yes, it will be very sad and it will be a huge change, but I also believe that it's going to be the start of a whole new exciting chapter for me and my family, and whoever I can help empower their voice. I really believe in my heart I have a different purpose now, and I have to get the message of my book out there. Um and my own children, like that, initially with them using their voice, I was so uncomfortable with it because I had to be like this model early years educator, and God, my children have to behave. And if I'm giving advice to other parents, why are my children not doing what they're supposed to be doing? And that again came back to my discomfort, keeping up this profile or this persona that I have to have children behave in a certain way. And it's only now that I'm so proud to be able to say my children have pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like, I don't know, they obviously don't realize now the impact that they're having, but I'm so proud to be able to say that they've inspired me so much, and to now use my voice. Like, they have encouraged me to now use my voice for everybody else.
That's the most incredible story, because it's just saying how you allowed that space for your children to teach you,
Yeah.
and just to be willing to learn from them, because parents, teachers, we all think, and we take that responsibility so seriously that we forget that they are the teachers,
Oh my God.
and we
Yeah.
don't need to have all the answers. We don't need to have any answers. We learn together, and that's okay. We're not that doesn't mean we're losing control.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And with my book as well, I really want this is not a book to judge anybody. It's to bring awareness, because my own children would still say, Mommy, that's not what you're teaching in your book. So I have to remind myself of my own book. I am far from perfect. And I think that's what's important in me sharing my story and my book, and why I'm getting it out there. It is not to judge or shame anybody. Nobody's perfect. We're all trying our best, but it's just to bring awareness. And I think because the book is written so clearly in simple language, in rhyming language, the message couldn't be any clearer. And it's just a little stepping stone, I think, for parents, because there is so much, like you know that as well. There's so much information out there around parenting and trying to be the best parent and trying to be a better parent. And it can get very overwhelming. Like I've been there researching, strong-willed behavior and how do you manage strong-willed behavior. And that's what I'm really confident now to say, that if a parent reads my book, it's a stepping stone in listening to our children. And I think even just by doing that with everyday scenarios, you're already being a better parent by listening to them.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier about you being the good girl because you agreed with everything. And, that's what we think. It's like, oh, is the baby good? Because he doesn't cry and they don't do
Yeah,
anything. I
yeah,
think it's the language we use that kind of changes the meaning of what's actually happening. Because why does someone who doesn't have an opinion or doesn't voice, you have an opinion, but you don't voice your opinion because of lack of confidence or
yeah.
whatever it is. And why do we think that that's being a good girl?
I know, it's
Or a
so
baby that
true.
doesn't cry or complain because they want something. They're good.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's such a way we're conditioned, really, I think, isn't it? And again, it's a generational thing. And, those before us didn't understand the ins and outs of what even using that language can do to somebody. And I'm conscious of it myself. Like there's times I've often used it in my own house and I'm like, oh God, I'm after saying that now. But I like that. Yeah, I grew up being a good girl and I had a great childhood. There's nothing thinking back that I'm like, oh no, that wasn't right, or I had a really, really amazing childhood. But again, I think because that good girl persona was used so often, I just continued to be that person. And what happened was, going into secondary school, even going into my teenage 20s, even as an adult, there were scenarios where I really wanted to speak up on certain situations, and I just couldn't get the words out, or I wouldn't want to rock the boat, or I'd just say, oh no, like, and I would suppress then all this emotion because I hadn't the confidence to just use my voice. And that's what can happen so often when, as you said, you just use that good girl language. It really does. I wouldn't have realized how much of an effect it can have until now. And I can see that it's only now, after working on myself, writing my book, having the confidence to do that, and listening to my own children, I now have a voice. There's no way, if this was a year ago, I would have done this. No way at all, because I just wouldn't have been confident enough to, even running my own preschool. You're still within your own shell and your own surroundings, and you can just dip in and out of what you're comfortable with. But for me to now go out on different platforms, promoting my book and encouraging everybody's voice, like, I wouldn't have done this a year ago, definitely not. So it's
I
so
hope you're
important.
really proud of yourself.
I'm getting better at saying I'm proud of myself. Yeah, yeah, I am. I definitely am. And I believe that I have to do this now.
And how does that apply to teaching? You studied Montessori.
Yeah,
And you've talked about before about the need for control for when we started in teaching. I was a teacher myself as well at the
yeah,
beginning, and you have to have your lesson plans and do everything planned nearly by the minute, kind of
yeah,
what you're going to be doing and everything. And as you get more experience, you get more comfortable in the classroom, you can
yeah,
allow children to lead their activities and the learning and the experiences. And I think that just promotes that voice that they have, that just really allows that space, creates that space of trust for them to voice
yeah,
thoughts and ideas and opinions and feelings, and how
yeah.
important that is in the classroom. So how can we make this a little bit better in the classroom?
Oh, I definitely think, yeah, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think early years is moving forward, definitely in terms of Ashtar and the amount of play and places just being more open and free play, for the duration of the time that they're in there. But I definitely, when I started out, I mentioned earlier when we chatted ourselves that my classrooms were almost like a junior or senior infants classroom. Like they were just, it was so calm, it was so quiet, and the children were doing their activities and they were playing with things the way I showed them to play with them, because that's how I was taught in college. You sit down and you show them how this is used, and that's the way it's used, and you don't use it any other way. And I can't even say when the significant change came about, but as the years went on, I realized that, this is really teacher led. This is very structured. And some parents do really want that.
Yeah.
But it all looked really good for me. And I felt amazing because my classes were so organized and so structured. But when I look back now, I'm so glad that I have changed with the children. And as the years went on, I like the preschool was primarily play based, still teacher led in terms of transitioning from, indoor, outdoor, lunch and stuff like that. I definitely let the reins go significantly. Could I have went a little bit further? Possibly. But as an adult, it's the adults finding it difficult to let go of control, as you said. And when you really start to listen to the children, my God, they are so much happier for it. So I probably would have, we still cover our themes and, your general themes throughout the year, but it was up to the children whether they took part in activities or, for occasions. It was their choice whether they wanted to or not. And you could just see total happier children for it. Now, it becomes busier, it becomes louder, it becomes more chaotic, but that's what childhood is all about, and that's what they should be doing. And I think, again, it comes back to us, the adults, being open to this change for the children.
And is there anything you would do from the school or preschool to make sure that the parents, because as you said, a lot of parents would expect children to come home with lots of work done and pages and written things, and oh, my child, they compare, my child is better because they can do this and your child doesn't. Well, they
Yeah.
don't. But how can we help parents understand that the learning sometimes when the real learning happens, they won't be able to see it. It's a
Yeah.
long journey.
Yeah. I think, well, for me, I used to find building up trusting relationships with the parents was so important. So then when you do speak about stuff like this or explain, I know you might not see them sitting down learning colors, from start to finish, but they're learning them. They're there, they're taking them in during their play every day. So I think when they trust you and they have a good connection with you, that's when they really start to listen and they know you're not just saying all this just to keep them happy. That's the reality. But it is still very much there where people want structure and, it comes down to the understanding. I do think it's up to the provider, the service provider or the teacher to get a good relationship with parents, and then when you share stuff, they know that it's true and it's valid and it's from the heart. So yeah, I think giving that personal touch is so important. I really would have always done that and been massive on communication. And yeah, I think then parents, they believe what you're saying then, that they know you're not just saying it for a reason. And we would have used over the last few years a Little Vista app, which meant we were taking pictures and doing a daily review and sending them in the moment. And like you're able to then comment on what you're seeing in front of you. So I think that was definitely a good learning curve for parents to see, look at they're doing so much, or even if it's just gross motor play outside. It's not just outside playing, like they're developing balance, hand-eye coordination. There's just so much early maths, like with pouring and scooping sand and making sandcastles. That's all early maths and learning, so I think just there's a lot of learning to be done for parents as well, but it's up to us as teachers or anyone that they're working
And there are
with.
constant opportunities as well through play for them to express their voice.
Oh, it's
I want
huge.
more, I need these, no, you go there, no, that's my
Yeah,
now. And it's just allowing them even conflict resolution, problem solving, decision
yeah,
making. It's all those little opportunities in a safe environment for them to express that voice and gain that confidence and
yeah.
self-esteem and position in the world.
Yeah, and I think when you stand back and you observe, I definitely, as I was
Mm.
transitioning over the years, I probably felt, well, I'm in here and I'm doing nothing. I'm not doing anything because I'm just sitting here observing. That's like the best thing you can do is just leave them to it. And when you actually stand back and watch them, oh my God, do we underestimate children and their abilities? And it's so heartwarming to see. So again, I think that's something that teachers, I definitely felt it myself, like, what am I doing of my day if I'm just sitting here watching them? It's a thing that you feel as a teacher or an educator that you're not doing enough. Whereas they're far better off if you just step back and leave them to it because they're amazing. Children are amazing.
And it's a win-win then, because everyone's happy.
Everyone's
And by
happy.
observing, you can then create more opportunities based on what you see that they need or they like, or their interest.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And like when they're outside, oh my God, again, you've different children when they're outside. Their opportunities for play are amazing and they just get stuck in, like, they'll be moving furniture and digging holes and oh, it's so exciting to see. So I think even as parents, like if you are in a service or if you have a primary school teacher and they're really an advocate for play, then
Mm.
you're a very lucky parent because it's not there enough yet. I think we've a long way to go, but I think
Yes.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and you're definitely one of the biggest advocates for that, and that's why I love what you do. I absolutely love the learning that you share for everybody. So I think it's just up to us who work with children or who have worked alongside children to share it and explain it because in fairness to parents they just don't understand the benefits. Education and academics is still very much at the forefront, so it's up to people that understand to share it.
Absolutely. Where does the near future look to Aisling Hart? Aisling Hart. What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to take a little break when I finish preschool next week and just enjoy my family and focus on my own children and just be more present for them. And then the hope would be that I keep getting my book out there. I would love to create more work around my book, workshops, whether that be in schools or with parents, um, to explain, as we mentioned there, explain why it's important to listen to our children's voices. And then hopefully down the line, I would love to create a Voice of the Child series of books covering different topics that come up. I have a couple written in draft. One is relation to separation, one is in relation to death, one is in relation to feeling angry, because these are all things that children go through as well. And again, their feelings are often dismissed. If they're going through something, we as adults can decide if we need to get support, whether we need therapy, we need healing. And our little people are going through all these things as well. And they often need support and it can be just dismissed. And unfortunately, if we don't give them support as early as possible with these scenarios, it's going to come back and impact them later on in life. And we don't want that. So that would be my goal down the line is a box set of the voice
What
of
I what I love the most about your books, let's say books because it's going to
yeah.
help, obviously, is that most adults were very stubborn and we don't need help. We never need help because we know,
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
in their own
We've it
thing.
all figured out.
But you're helping the adults through helping the child.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible
Yeah.
because we'll never admit how much we adults can learn when reading your books because we're helping
Yeah.
our children, but deep inside, it's as you had feedback from other parents saying, like the cup, like the coffee cup or whatever, and
Yeah.
I never realized that
Yeah. That's
I can
it.
see it through different eyes, and I can really understand why my child says or does what they do.
What they do. Yeah.
Really, really powerful. So you're not telling adults now read this; it's gonna help you with X, Y, Z.
Oh,
No,
no.
it's gonna make your parenting a lot easier because you're gonna be able to understand your children and
Yeah.
you can help them and read the book, and while they read the book, that little moment of connection together as well.
Yeah, it's
That's the
huge.
most powerful thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I want, when I am sharing my story and, my book and whatever else is to come, it's really important for me to be real and honest and let other parents know that I have not got this figured out. I'm on the same learning journey, but I'm open to learning and I'm open to listening. And I actually have a funny story. I remember meeting a parent who had enrolled their child in my preschool. And again, this comes down to me trying to keep up this, profile of my children being amazing. And my youngest was with me. We met outside the local shop, and we were chatting about her child starting, say, at the end of the summer. And in the meantime, my child is on the roof of the car. And I'm like, oh my God. And we only actually spoke about this last week. And she said, I actually thought that was hilarious. And I said, I was sweating, thinking, oh my God, this lady is not going to want to send her child to my preschool. My child is on the roof of the car. She won't listen to anything I say.
I see.
And it's only now I'm like, that was again, it was my discomfort. Like she was just a child seeing an opportunity that mommy was distracted. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna see what I can get away with here. And it's only now that it's actually so lovely to look back and laugh over that and realize that it was my discomfort again. It was nothing to do with my child. She was just being a child. But yeah, it's trying to be real. I think it's so important to be real because we're all trying to do our best here at the end of the day for our children.
Absolutely. And there's always two sides of the story. When we think we're the worst parents, they think they're having the time of their life.
Yeah,
And
yeah, she said that. She said,
yeah.
I thought it was so funny. She said, I thought it was lovely that your child was doing that.
How brave and independent.
Yeah, free spirit.
I love that. Just one more thing before we go. Anyone listening to this episode, if there was only one thing they can take home with them today, what would that be?
Oh, just to really listen to and empower our children, empower them for the future because they are our future. And, it's so important to give them their voice now. As early as possible, let them have their voice.
And if just I think it's important to know how so we talked about the good girl thing and the being empowered and strong-willed, bossy. But if those children now we move forward, fast forward 20 years,
Yeah.
how will that having that voice impact them in their future? Just so we get the bigger picture and we know where we're going and why it's important we do this now.
Well, I like to use myself as an example. I'm turning 40 this year. I'm not shy about talking about my age, but I am only now gaining confidence to use my voice in just various scenarios. So I think, in 20 years' time, if our children are going out for jobs, or if they're not happy in a job, or if, they're in relationships and they're uncomfortable with something, and I actually have spoken to a sexual abuse victim and survivor on a podcast recently who was so encouraging about my book. And she was saying about the importance of me getting my book out there because she went through it. And like, if our children are going into relationships when they're older, they have to be able to speak up. Like it's in so many different scenarios, whether it's a workplace, a relationship, within a family, stuff goes on everywhere, and wherever it is, it's so important for them to have their voice. Especially, you can see the world we're living in today. And it's really, really important we start as early as possible because yeah, I don't think people think too far down the line, but it's so impactful for them if we start now. I do have one of the pages in my book says, do you hug and kiss others when it doesn't feel right? I didn't think so. I shouldn't have to fight. Yes, I am young but human like you. My voice, my choice, and my body too. I think that page definitely comes up a lot in discussion um, for body autonomy, and especially in relationships or situations where our children as adults are exposed to something they're totally uncomfortable with. And if they haven't got a voice, you know what the outcome is. And then if something does happen and they still don't have a voice, they suppress that. And so many people, I discussed this with the other lady as well, so many people have come and gone and suffered throughout their whole life because they didn't have a voice. So I hope that explains the importance of giving them their voice now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you've gone through all the different small actions we can do today to help them for their future. But
Yeah,
not just our children, ourselves as well, our relationship with our children, our parenting, and just bring more joy into it as well, more connection, and then how
yeah,
that's going to impact the whole world really, because it has a ripple effect and it's
yeah.
going to affect everybody in their environment, in our environment. So that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, I really do hope so that, you know, I hope it can bring about change. And as you said, connection and you know what, if they're talking back, it's not a bad thing.
Yes,
They're
that's
just
the
they're just
tagline.
using their voice.
I love that. Aisleen, thank you so much. I wish
Thank
you all the
you.
very best. I'll be watching closely, you know that, and we'll be chatting away anyway.
Yes,
I
yeah.
can't wait to read more of your books with my children.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me on. And just if anybody does want to get the book, it's on buythebook.ie is the primary place that you can get it. So yeah, buythebook.ie.
Perfect. We'll link it there on the description as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and follow so you'll never miss